So Rumi's family originated in what is now considered modern-day Afghanistan, and at some point when he was a kiddo, the family moves to what is now modern-day Turkey, specifically Konya, the city of Konya, which is still there. And people don't really know why the family moved. There are some theories that it was during Genghis Khan and the sort of Mongolian invasion, and they were wiping out entire cities if they didn't comply. So some people think, oh, it's because of that they moved. They were looking for safety. I think it's a pretty good theory. But we don't really know. And when they settled down, it's interesting, the Mongolians never made it to the part of Turkey that Rumi's family ended up in, so they did turn out to be safe. And his dad gave sermons at the local mosque in Konya. So he came from sort of a religious family, the big to-do family. They weren't like Joe nobodies. Rumi's life was pretty ordinary until the story goes, I mean, all this is like partially myth, right? The story goes that he was sort of in the marketplace, like walking along, and there was this guy named Shams, and he saw Shams for the first time, and at that point his whole life changes, and he meets his sort of spiritual, you wouldn't call it a guru, but I'm going to call it a guru, his main spiritual person. And they ended up spending like an inordinate amount of time talking about philosophy and God and all the things that you talk about with your sort of spiritual person advisor. And the family, Rumi's family, was not too happy about this. He was married, he had kids, he had a full life, and then he was hanging out with this stranger. And at some point they sort of plot against Shams, and they take him away. He disappears. And Rumi is devastated. I'm not sure he knows that his family was responsible, but he's totally devastated, and it's out of this sense of loss and grief and longing and mourning that he begins to write his poetry. And then at some point, Shams comes back for a little bit, and then I think someone in his family might kill him. So he's gone for good, and so it's in some ways Rumi has to mourn him twice. And if you go to Konya to this day, you can find the tombs of both of them, Rumi in one place and slightly out of town, Shams in another place. It's interesting, they're not together. They got separated even for eternity with their tombs. So that's just some background for you to know about the two. And we're going to read several of his poems. And one of them is called A Gift of Water. And it's about this traveler who makes a very arduous journey through the desert. And he's going to visit the Caliph. And we don't know why he's going to visit the Caliph, but he does. And he brings as a gift, imagine this, through the desert for how many days? Like he's holding this glass of water. I know, it's almost unimaginable. Like you can't spill it. It can't evaporate that much or it won't be much of a gift. So somehow he keeps this glass of water going. And so when he shows up at the Caliph's house, the big dude says, "Oh, thank you very much for the water, and here's a gift in return." And he gives him not water, but a glass of gold coins. And the traveler's like, wow. And then that's not the only gift. The Caliph says, oh, you came by the desert, and that was probably very hard, and now you should go home by water. And he sort of opened up the back door of his house, and there was the Tigris right there, something that the traveler didn't know at all. And then the traveler was totally humbled, and he said, I brought this guy a glass of water, and he has an entire river just like right outside his door. Like, what a loser of a gift I just brought. I mean, he was thinking to himself, and the Caliph was so generous, he didn't even tell me what a stupid gift this was. So, and then of course, he does go home by the Tigris. And this is the first part of the poem. And then the second part gets way wackier. And it's pretty standard with a lot of poetry that it moves from concrete to abstract. And so the second part's abstract, and I want you to think about the second part as much as you think about the first part. Just because it gets weird doesn't mean you don't have to think about it. So my question for all of you is, who is more generous of the two? Is the traveler more generous in bringing a glass of water through the desert all that way? Or is the Caliph more generous, not just because he gives him a cup of gold coins, but that because he shows him a faster, better way home on this freshwater river? So think about it both in a concrete, practical way, but then also all this has to be symbolic of something. Like, what's the glass of water symbolic of? What's the Tigris symbolic of? What's the gold symbolic of? Think about it on a deeper level as well. Okay? And that's where our discussion will start. Okay? Enjoy.